ultimate abilities can be the deciding factor on whether you win a fight or lose one, but this is also true for the enemy team. So deciding to invest in ultimate ability solely for the purpose of countering an enemy ult can make or break a team fight. Sometimes regular abilities aren't enough to counter the strength of potentially one-shotting ultimates that exist in this game, so using ultimates of your own to outweigh the enemy's advantage is the counterplay. On today's episode of Actionpedia, we're going to be looking at a few examples of ultimates that were countered using other ultimates. We've included some classic counters, but we've also added some sequences that happen too fast to tell that there is an underlying game of chess happening at the macro level. Starting us off with an ultimate that everyone is familiar with, Sound Barrier is a classic counter ult that can save your teammates' lives in a pinch. Sound Barrier can be used to counter many ults, namely any ultimates that deal burst damage very quickly. A good example of one of these is Sigma's Gravitic Flux, which guarantees to deal half of any health bar caught inside of its radius. By popping your Sound Barrier as Lucio, you're providing a temporary 750 health barrier to all teammates that will not only help absorb, but allow a buffer to help ease the incoming damage. Sound Barrier is an all-around fantastic counter ult, as it makes you borderline unkillable without pinpoint focus fire from the enemy. This support ultimate can counter many ults, including any attempted follow-up onto Graviton Surge, and even offset the damage potential of a Primal Rage. This ult is best used reactively to an enemy ulting, to ensure the survival of your team. Heading into the next sequence, we're going to see a slew of ultimates thrown at the wall in response to each other, each countering the preceding ult. The Shock are looking to finally capture the point and fill in the remaining 1% to secure the map, and they have a myriad of ults available to them. To begin, the Shock manage to capture the point and the Dragons immediately open up with an offensive Coalescence from Izayaki. To counter this, the Shock invest Bob, Mines, and Valkyrie to retake any space the Dragons may want to claim, using the aforementioned Coalescence as well as offset the damage done. Now, unable to walk onto point, the Dragons must invest something to counter these three ults that Shock have put out. Translocating onto point, Lip activates EMP, disabling all of the Mines and Bob, shutting two ults down entirely. But before the Dragons have a chance to maneuver onto the point, Shock's Violet activates Transcendence to give them the last edge Shock needs to keep everyone's HP sustained enough to confirm capture of the point. Altogether, this is a showcase of how the ultimate game is a back and forth war of attrition, in that it is crucial to save the right ultimates for the right time. Another quick example we would like to showcase is an interesting response to Gangnam Jin popping Coalescence to keep Justice off of the point. Mayhem has control of the objective and wants to extend their percentage by any margin, so they make the call to coalesce, but Janu immediately follows it up with his whole hog, displacing both Gargoyle and Gangnam Jin off the point. This move effectively nullifies the entire duration of Coalescence, while also securing a foothold on the point. This aggressive whole hog is enough to reclaim the space from Mayhem's remaining players, and they are rewarded with their first capture of the match. Sometimes displacement is a stronger tool than hiding yourself, or even trying to out-heal it entirely. Moving on to the next clip, the Shanghai Dragons are looking to quickly turn things around from a 70% deficit on Oasis. Looking at the ult disparity, you can already tell which side will be countering who. Heading into an engagement, the Dragons identify a weak point in the Shock setup, the lonesome Ashe-Mercy duo on the high ground. Intending to invest a full dive onto them, Lip preemptively positions for an EMP and manages to capture Ashe inside of it. But where did the Mercy go? If we look again, we can see that Moth actually predicted the EMP, and forestalled by popping Valkyrie right as it happened, flying out of range of the EMP's radius. While this does allow the Dragons to eliminate Ans, the Shock retreat back to the point. Caught out by Void, Choi Hyobin gets dangerously low and Violet pops Transcendence to top him off. In order to put out an instant burst of damage to counter Violet, Void tosses his self-destruct onto the point. Luckily for the Shock, everyone has a nearby cover to duck behind and its damage is wasted. Moving on to another classic counter, Zenyatta's very own Transcendence. A powerful ult in its own right, it exists entirely to save teammates against heavily sustained damage, and now holds a spot as the go-to Gravitic Flux counter. The incredible 300 per second area of effect healing it provides allows any incoming damage to be immediately healed up, and makes anyone inside the radius almost impossible to kill without an instantaneous burst. Our last example for today features an interesting sequence of events between the San Francisco Shock and the Los Angeles Gladiators. Nearing the end of the round, the Gladiators are about to secure the map win, so the Shock need to make a play to turn the tide. The plan rolls into motion with Super cruising through the point to garner the enemy team's attention while Violet sets up on the high ground. Once up there, he puts down his window and Mirror is immediately there to answer for it. Dropping too low for comfort, he ults Batiste and Striker counters him with a high noon from the sidelines, managing to clear Violet's high ground. Unfortunately for the Shock, Mirror's play burnt too many of their resources to mount a convincing defense, and the round ultimately completes in favor of the Gladiators. Getting a team wiping ultimate off is definitely satisfying and worthy of feeling proud of, but being able to counter one is even better. The next time the enemy Sigma tries to flux your entire team, be ready with something to answer back. Or the next time you see an EMP coming, be prepared to press Q before they do. That's all we have for today's episode of Actionpedia. We hope this helped provide some insight into how some ults can be used to counter others, as well as brought some attention to the intricacies that can be found in the plentiful ultimates found in this game. This video was made possible thanks to our wonderful patrons. A massive thank you to everybody on this list, and shout out to Jason, Foxy, Lyra, Mauve, Nate, Nathan, Oshayo, Sierra, Shampoo, Weeaboo, Spartacus, and Yashichi for being platinum supporters. And an extra special shout out to Steven, Noodles, Marco, Mookie, Daniel, and Juke for being diamond supporters. Thanks a ton guys, we really appreciate it. If you also want to support our channel and unlock perks, check out the Patreon link in the description below, or join our Discord server. If you want to help us out in a different way, leaving a like, subscribing, and hitting the bell to stay up to date is also appreciated. My name is Nikita, and thank you for watching.